is an opinionated local sports editor who has made a name for himself thanks to his beard.
That's a serious beard you got going on. I mean, you're heading toward Doug Dynasty, but well-groomed. That's a good look. If I ever did that, that's the look I would go for.
The other guy is a guy who takes no prisoners when it comes to sports.
Let's stomp these dudes.
Together, they bring you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and opinions on sports from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
It's Jason Elmquist.
Today, I'm a mild-mannered reporter for the newspaper.
And Patrick Wheeler.
I'm a very dangerous man.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport.
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa.
Welcome into the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler with you. Jason Elmquist will be along shortly. He was tuned in to that Mike Boynton Zoom conference that I believe played on TV 3101 there, which Mike Boynton had a ton to talk about today, obviously. Welcome into the Afternoon Sports Drive again. Patrick Wheeler here with you. Hey, good news for Oklahoma State on multiple fronts today. And this has been something that Oklahoma State has needed for a while now. After the last week and a half, it's basically been a month of just back-to-back-to-back negatives that have hit the university. Well, we got some positive news. I was actually tidying up the sports report this morning when Cade Cunningham launched the news on Twitter and Instagram that he will be staying with the Cowboys. And we're going to get into plenty of that. I believe, hopefully, we're going to have Scott Wright from the Oklahoman joining us at 3:25, hopefully. And then at 4:25, Chris Hunt will be joining us, director of the Eddie film, as good news came out of that area as well today. Some people were probably like, we were waiting on June 11th. What happened to that day? Because we originally talked about that film being at the Dead Center Film Festival. Well, different plans have changed. So we'll talk to him about all of that in hour number 2. I believe Tom Dorado will join us then as well and discuss. But biggest news of the day obviously goes to Cade Cunningham. We went down a list of players that had announced plans to stay or continue to act on their intent to play on the freshmen, for instance, Oklahoma State basketball, and everyone said, okay, that's great. We got most of them coming or staying here, but what about Cade? What about Cade? That was next. Everyone wanted to know what he was planning on doing. Was he going to go play for another school? Was he going to go to the G League? Was he going to stick with Oklahoma State? I will admit, because I know there's going to be people that say, you were wrong. And I will admit I was. I really believed, after hearing the news, when it came down, that Oklahoma State was receiving a postseason ban, was receiving 3 years probation, that Cade Cunningham would be gone. And not just him. We see 2 players end up leaving or entering the transfer portal, but I expected more than that. The main thing here is that it really does prove how loyal these guys are to Mike Boynton. And if you look at all of the posts about coming back from every single player, what's that one word you can find in every single post? Loyalty. Loyalty. The Boone twins announcing recently, saying the same thing. Keelan Boone announcing over the weekend that he's staying. Says, hey, you know what? Coach Boynton has been loyal to me. Why would I not return the favor? And that's big time. I mean, that's big time for people listening in and thinking Oklahoma State basketball might have been it. When the news dropped, I think a lot of people were saying, well, there goes that season. You know, we were going to have this possible dream season for all we know. Who knows how it would end up? We try to manage expectations, but it's hard not to get really excited when you see the roster. And so, all that being put into perspective, now you realize, wow, I really got to give a ton of credit to that Oklahoma State coaching staff for being able to weather a storm like this and also keep the majority of your team. I mean, think of a lot of schools where this would happen and players would stick around. I don't think there's a lot of schools that this would happen to and players would stick around. Really don't. So give credit to Oklahoma State. Give credit to the coaching staff. They pulled it off. Now, would Cade have stayed had his brother not been here? I don't know. It's definitely possible that he would have gone. That might have been the main reason. And Tom tried to convince me. He said, he's going to stay. Just wait. I said, you're crazy. I wouldn't. Why would he do it? Put yourself in this situation. Would you do it? But with Oklahoma State going to do their best at stretching this out, at appealing all the punishments, taking their time in doing so, and then I firmly believe, as a lot of people do, that even when this appeal most likely gets upheld, that they will take it to the next level and continue to stretch it out into and fight it into federal court. And all this time, you've got an opportunity for Cade Cunningham to get out there on the court and possibly still play for a postseason appearance, depending on how long this thing drags out. So there is a lot of things at play there. I think Cade sees a real opportunity as well. I mean, really, you can see all the talent that is coming in here besides him, as well as the Boones staying, Isaac Likely staying. He sees something special here. I saw a tweet earlier today, college basketball reporter Jeff Goodman, saying that he was told Cade Cunningham never seriously considered the G League and that he turned down $500,000 plus months ago. And then Doug Gottlieb said, I was actually told it was $750,000. That number would not be surprising based on other reports of what we saw for Jalen Green, for example. I would have had to think that the G League probably offered him near $1 million. $750,000 probably is correct. Could have been higher than that with everything else. And Cade might not end up taking that route, but you'd be naive to think that a lot more players in the future, until this name, image, and likeness stuff goes through in college, are going to be taking that route, college basketball. So yeah, I admit that I was pretty skeptical. Did not believe that Cade would stick around. But now that he has made that announcement official, it is definitely going to garner more fan interest than I believe was even here a couple weeks ago. Because the interest level was rising big time already with Cade being here. But I have to think, and just from talking to some people, that news with all the punishments coming out, that interest level started to slowly sink a little bit more. I think a lot of people were like, well, we still want to watch this team if they all stick around, but if they're not playing for a postseason, then how much are we really watching for? I sat through it last year, so I know how this is. I sat through trying to root on a very, very, very average, very below average Missouri football team at that point that I realized probably wasn't going to have a chance at the postseason anyways there in football. And I'll tell you, that's not a good feeling, going in there knowing you have no shot. And basketball, too, it's different, though, because the NCAA tournament is so wide open every single year. That's why I think there was so much, not just hope, but just interest. We've seen so many teams that don't even have that big of a name around them that find a way to get it done in the postseason because it's a different time. Different teams click that late in the year, and they have less to lose. Now, I'm not saying Oklahoma State's one of those teams, but you just never know what can happen. With Oklahoma State returning all this talent, with Cade sticking around, and with the possibility of stretching everything that was brought down upon them by the NCAA as far as possible, maybe, just maybe, the chips fall in the right direction all of a sudden. as I bring Jason in now. This was good news number one of the day. We're going to get to a couple of good news spots for Oklahoma State, but this was definitely something I think the university needed.
Yeah. Have you cut up the audio already? Of the hour long?
Yeah. No, I haven't got to that yet.
I'm sure we'll break down a lot of it tomorrow.
We will. And I did was sitting there actually, like I said earlier on the program to start here, firing up the sports report, actually just polishing it up, finishing. Here comes Jordan. Did you see the Cade news? I'm like, no, I actually hadn't yet. Just got back on Twitter. There it was. Threw that audio on there with minutes to spare before the deadline.
And here's the thing. If Tom would have had Twitter, he could have blown this news wide open a week ago.
He could have. He could have.
He could have been first and right.
Another reason for why we should be running Tom's Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. But, hey, just like you said, Cade coming back and mostly everybody sticking around here. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a smaller team. We know that now with Yor and Hitty, saying they're out of here.
Yeah.
But this is a team that I believe they hit their stride right, can score a lot of points really quickly, too. We know that an emphasis is going to be also on scoring quick, getting out in transition and making things happen in the open floor. This is the right team to get that type of thing started.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I said last week when we heard Yor was transferring. Is some of it might have been minutes, but at the same time, not necessarily minutes because his minutes started kind of dwindling last year. But if you look at this roster and you're saying that we got to get both Isaac Likely and Cade Cunningham on the court at the same time, then that means you got to shift down. You still need a shooting guard. You still need a 3-point specialist somewhere in there. Well, then you got to get a multi-faceted athlete down low. The Boons and stuff like that. And then it's like, okay, do we then utilize another guard, another dual combo forward? Because Yor was, again, no disrespect to Yor, he was a great defender. But if you're wanting to push the ball with two of the premier point guards in the country, a big man of his abilities is going to slow you down some. And maybe that's what he sees. And again, it wasn't asked of Boynton, but I'm sure when if the season starts and we get to do an immediate availability before the season, that once they get players in and they start figuring things out, you can probably push the ball a little bit more if you're going with the Boone twins down low, or one of these other guys transferring in or who have signed as freshmen. Because Yor is a big, lumbering dude that I don't know if you could actually run up and down like you might want to with that talent that you have at the guard position.
So I said also that I had seen the tweet from Jeff Goodman that apparently he was offered, talking Cade here, $500,000 from the G League. Doug Gottlieb said actually it was $750,000. Wouldn't be surprised to see it even north of that with some of the other names we saw in the contracts they ended up signing. So, that's also why I came out saying, I was sitting here this whole time and I said I did not think Cade would come back. Tom tried to convince me. I said I just don't see it happening.
I bought into Tom well before last week when he said, he's coming back.
Yeah.
And it was because Tom brought up great points, and I built on it as well. But it's like, again, he doesn't need postseason. Everyone's, he's not going to get the opportunity to go to the postseason. He wasn't guaranteed to go to the postseason here anyway. Let's be honest. Because when's the last time that the OSU went to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah,
it was before Boynton. Right. So there was no guarantee there. Yeah, he probably would give them an opportunity to improve those chances over the last 3 years, but there's no guaranteed. But then the other thing was his brother. He literally said in his announcement back in the fall, the winter, that blood is thicker than water. That's what it was all about. He getting to play with his brother and stuff like that as a coach, and that didn't change. His brother's still here. So it was pretty, to me, like unless he's just decided, I want. If G League suddenly came out and said, yeah, we'll give you $2 million. Yeah, that'd be probably hard to pass up. But it's like, okay, $750,000. I can have fun with my brother, have the college experience. Which, here the thing we got to keep in mind. I remember, this is several years back now, where LeBron James even has admitted that he kind of wishes he would have had at least 1 year of college to just experience the college life.
And I get that. I think that definitely has something to play into it as well. But, yeah, just like you said, with it being just 1 year, that's a huge chunk of it, too. If he was planning on working through it for a few years, we'd probably see him go do something else.
Because while OSU fans may not want to believe it, for people who have been in fans of programs of one and done, all he has to do is take classes for a semester. Let's be honest. That's all he needs to do.
Yeah, he's this is basketball time, okay, for Cade Cunningham. When he knows that, it's looking very likely he's going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So he also sees that 1 year here, even if we can't get this appeal overturned, and if it, we can't stretch it out long enough to where we ultimately can't go in the postseason, maybe it is, like you said, it's my brother, and it's also, he sees, I believe, a pretty unique opportunity there with the talent surrounding him, because we talk about teams at the pro level building around a player.
Right.
Mike Boynton built around this guy.
Well, and that's the thing. The other reason I thought that it would be smart, and not of why he would stay. I thought it'd be smart for him to stay, is and not thinking selfishly or whatever, but I couldn't tell you anyone who's ever played in the G League that went on to be a top 10 draft pick or whatever. Again, we're probably going to see that this year. But nobody pays attention to the G League. Let's be honest.
No, they don't.
No one. And you can say all you want about, well, he's going to get sponsored. He could have gotten sponsorship deals on top of the X amount of dollars. But the only way you get good sponsorship deals is exposure, and you're not getting it in the G League.
Yeah.
And while even if you don't play in the postseason, even if you don't get there, if you are as good as advertised, ESPN is going to plaster you all over the place when you're playing in college basketball. They won't do that in the G League.
There's going to be a lot of Oklahoma State games on television this year on a national platform.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to – that name's already out there, but it's going to be put out there. Now, if they can generate success off of that too, then all of a sudden you've got a story of, look, he decided to stay. Oklahoma State was hit with these punishments. They're going out there and they're getting wins. I mean, this could develop into a really interesting story for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when you look at Cade's decision here too, it's kind of like you said, we even admitted wouldn't go and sit and watch G League basketball. I mean, let's be honest.
I don't even know I don't think it's televised.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
on the NBA TV or
you
something
probably
like
have to
that.
pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to seek it out. And even if Cade win, I'm not going to seek it out. I'll look it up at the box score and see how we did. But and so maybe that part of it played into it too. I just know that like when you look at Jalen Green, for instance, and those opportunities that those other guys had, I think when they see that it's not just money, okay? It's money, but it's also the education they were going to pay for, all that too. Maybe a lot of it does have to do with Cade just going straight to probably the number 1 pick.
And that's what's funny when people talk about the, especially the players themselves of, the NBA is going to pay for the education. Well, the colleges are too. Remember, that's the whole thing is,
right,
you're not having to pay to go to college.
The only thing is they're also going to be able to make money doing whatever else they want.
Right. But at the same time, like I said, I think to me, if I were in his shoes of if I feel like my stock is good enough, I think I get more I benefit my stock by going to college because I'm going to get more exposure. Even though I can make money instantly, I think ultimately it's a smart business plan because maybe the money you don't get the money up front like you do if you go G League, but maybe ultimately you get more money because you get that exposure at the college level first.
Yeah, you definitely could. And you could almost kind of, look at it a little bit like a miniature version of a G League situation here in the Big 12. I mean, he's playing against some pretty good competition. Now, would it be better if he was in the ACC and all? Yeah, probably. No. But we get the Big 12 pretty competitive, and he's got a chance to go up against some good talent with those teams. And that's why everyone wants to pay attention to. If he can do it at this level, and let's say he just goes out there and dominates too. Then he's like, look, I'm telling you right now, like this was what I wanted to do this entire time. Get my name out there, do it on the highest level, Division I basketball. I mean, we're talking about too. We got to remember, and as I've said, they can stretch this out as long as this legal process, as long as they possibly can, and try to sneak them in there for all we know.
Yeah, because the appeals is supposed to be sometime in September that we find out, and then if you take legal action against it, that stays the execution, if you will, of the punishment, and that if you can stretch it out as long as you can, ask for random delays of Boynton can't or whoever can't make it to this because they're in the middle of the season, so let's push it back until the summer, and then boom, you get to play the postseason. He gets his opportunity. Everyone gets the opportunity as well, but. Again, ultimately, yes, OSU fans, that's what they're thinking. But if I'm Cade, I'm thinking again. If I'm a player, I'm thinking about the fact that okay, I'm a one and done. No matter where I'm at, whether it's G League or college, I'm a one and done, and then I'm going into the NBA draft. Is his name going to be across the scroll for how he did in the G League game?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
And obviously no highlights, but you're not even going to get across the scroll.
Right.
Where if you go out there and you beat a Kansas and you have 20 points and 15 assists, you're going across the scroll, and you're probably getting highlights as well.
That's why with some of these names, and the G League would have been thrilled had they grabbed Cade with the possibility of getting more exposure.
Because think of this. Do you think Zion Williamson would have been a household name had he gone G League?
Not like he was, and he knew too, as well as how much coverage that Duke gets alone. So that played into it. So
he got the benefit because he also went to a university that was automatically going to be on TV.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, he's a guy that easily could have been. I mean, everyone was saying that he was going to be the next generational type of athlete. Mm-hmm. G League, I'm probably would have offered a lot of money for him.
And you know what else that he probably played into it? Him getting hurt like he did in college. Well, he wasn't just swept under the rug like he might have been in the G League. Let's be honest.
Right.
You get hurt.
Right.
We've seen players that go to the G League, they disappear after an injury.
Yeah.
College, no, he was still picked top in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
So,
and even when he was sidelined, it was reports of this is when he's going to be back. This is
Zion.
The whole shoe blowing out.
Right.
That wouldn't have made highlights if it happened in the G League.
No, not like it did. Not like it did. And it happened against Carolina.
Right.
I mean, all of it was
right. That's why I think if unless you are, I don't want to say if you want the money now.
Yeah.
If you want your money now, it's a great opportunity. And again, nothing against Jalen Green, but if you are thinking long term, because again, what have we said about Michael Jordan right now? He's made most of his money
after basketball
long term. Yeah. In deals and shoe deals and companies and stuff like that. That's where, and that's how it is in all sports. Mm-hmm. Most of your true career earnings. Even Troy Aikman's talked about it. How if you win down there as a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to make more off the field than you ever did on the field.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing. And again, if he goes out there and performs like the number one recruit, I think he's going to ultimately make more money than if he would have done that in the G League.
Definitely possible. We'll continue this conversation with Scott Wright from the Oklahoman next.
It's been a too long time with no peace of mind. I'm ready for the times to get better. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out. I've had enough of this continual rain. Changes are coming, no doubt. It's been a
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Jason Holmquist with you. And joining us now from the Oklahoman, Scott Wright covers Oklahoma State. And Scott, thanks for joining us. First of all, I said that while today we needed about as much good news as we possibly could get, and it started with the Cade Cunningham news. I mean, Oklahoma State they needed something to go their way, and they finally got it.
Yeah, it was funny hearing Mike Boynton just a little while ago talking about. The calendar has finally turned to summer. Maybe the awful spring that Oklahoma State has had is over, and things can start fresh with the summer now that Cade Cunningham has made his decision that he is sticking to his commitment to Oklahoma State and going to be here for the coming season. And it was a good way to start the day for a lot of Cowboy fans.
Hey, Scott, Jason Holmquist here. Are you going to go with the suggested headline from Boynton? It's a great summer for Oklahoma State.
I might have to suggest that. We'll see. Summer of Cade might be a strong one too.
Yeah.
For you personally, Scott, was there ever any doubt in your mind that he was going to return to OSU?
There was a little bit. I kind of thought he might like the opportunity to know that he's going to get a chance to go play in the NCAA tournament, maybe have a shot at the national title. He's obviously a very confident player, and and probably feels that wherever he's at, that program's going to have a shot to do that. And I thought some of those thoughts might creep in, but as the wheels started turning and the pieces started falling into place, starting with Isaac Likely and the other guys last week, you really saw the momentum that Oklahoma State was gaining, and at that point, it kind of erased the vast majority of doubt that Cade would go anywhere else, and he made it final today. So.
Obviously, Scott, you and I have either covered or followed OSU athletics for the better part of the past decade, and we've seen OSU fans, especially during the fall, it's all football. Even when you have a top 10 matchup for men's basketball, it doesn't get a whole lot of attention. Do you think that shifts with getting this reconfirmation from Cade because he's the number one recruit coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. And you factor in all the other guys that are coming in and all the young guys that are coming back. I think the excitement level for this program is going to reach places it hasn't been in a long time. So it's going to be really intriguing to watch and see what what the fan reaction is. I know the OSU basketball account just tweeted out not too long ago, Cade's in or you, with the link to season tickets and all of that information. So I think that they understand what this guy and all of these guys mean to what this program could be.
Scott Wright covers Oklahoma State for the Oklahoman, joining us here on the afternoon sports drive. Scott, how much hype does this team, I guess, deserve, but also have around them right now coming into the basketball season, even with the possible postseason ban and all that? Do they deserve to be hyped up as one of the top teams to make a run for this year?
You got to look at them that way with the talent that they're bringing in. Maybe they don't have the name and the recent success of some of the other programs are going to be compared to, but talent-wise, with what they're putting on the court and the toughness that they've played with in situations with less talent, which has become a trademark trait of a Mike Boynton team. You put those pieces all together, and there's a lot to be excited about on a national scale. So I think they're going to get a lot of attention. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be waiting to see what happens with the appeal and how that factors into things. But it's really the momentum that they've built is just it's off the charts right now.
We've obviously got a long time before we figure out or see what kind of the game plan is. But in previous years, when the big men have been maybe a little thin or you just didn't have a true big man, there's always been from a push from the fans of let's push the ball, let's go up tempo and stuff like that. But now that they have two true point guards essentially that they can throw out there with Cade and with Isaac Likely, do you think that that's a more realistic possible approach to this season? Is just letting these guys run up and down the court?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. That's it fits what those guys do, and not only that, even though there aren't true big men in the lineup, they're going to be putting a lot of size out there with the guys that they've got. I mean, Likely is no small dude, and then Cade is obviously 6'7" and can do a lot of things. So. And then you got the rest of your lineup of guys that you can put in. They put out some 6'6" to 6'8" guys out there that can go and do a lot of things. Versatility was a word that was used a lot during Mike Boynton's press conference today. So I think he's excited about how he can make all these puzzle pieces fit together and all the different things that he can do with lineups and those sorts of things. And I think that running the floor is going to be a big part of what they do because it fits them so well, and not only because of the lack of a true big man, but just because of the talent sets of what these guys have.
Scott Wright here on the afternoon sports drive. Do you see ticket sales just spiking now with the official announcement from Cade Cunningham?
Use the word spiking right now very cautiously.
That's right.
We're talking about tickets now, not
ticket
the
sales,
pandemic.
not coronavirus.
Right. The coronavirus might be the only thing that keeps the ticket sales from spiking. People might be wanting to wait and see what this season is going to look like, but other than that, yeah, I think you start seeing some some ticket sales beyond what they've seen already in the after they convinced Cade to come the first time. Now that they've got him to stick to it the second time, yeah, I think you probably see a little bit of that. And if the appeal happens to go their direction and they get the 2021 postseason back, it could be there could really be some excitement from the fan base at that point.
So you're predicting a second wave of spike for ticket sales then?
Oh my, we're getting way too far down this rabbit hole now, aren't we? This is dangerous.
It is. Yeah. Be careful how you answer that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at let's shift to football a little bit more your specialty. We know that here on the Scott Wright joining us on the afternoon sports drive. Is I like to label it the Chuba Gundy drama. I think we could make a little series out of it if we wanted to.
T-shirt gate?
Yeah, so T-shirt gate, whatever you want to call it. Is that going to start to simmer down here at the beginning of this week, do you think?
In terms of that incident itself, yes, I think so. In terms of Mike Gundy's standing in his position, I'm not 100% convinced that this is over for him. I'm not saying that he's going to get fired, but I don't think that he's completely out of the woods yet either. So I think that there's still a lot going on around that. There are a lot of important people having conversations about him and his job right now, and that's something that's probably going to go on for a couple of weeks. And I shouldn't say a couple of weeks. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's going to continue beyond today. This whole situation is not over for Coach Gundy at this point. We'll see what direction everything goes, and it's going to be a whole lot of boardroom talks that are not made public, and a whole lot of things that we're not going to know really out in the public or in the media. So it's going to be hard to follow and hard to see, but it's there.
Well, and obviously there's been a lot of talk, whether it's national pundits or I saw the story from Haston on Morency talking about how what Gundy has done could impact recruiting. But then today we also hear from Mike Boynton himself that it's actually kind of influencing or being brought up in basketball recruiting. He said that several of the people, families he's went to recruit have actually brought up that incident. I think that how worrisome is that for OSU? The fact that they're hearing that it's not just the football recruits that are asking about it, but that it is other athletic programs that are having to deal with that.
Yeah, it's a scary thing because recruiting is such a cutthroat game that the programs you're recruiting against are going to use anything they can to negatively recruit against you, and that's going to be something that's present in the recruiting world for them for a while until maybe until the season and when Chuba Hubbard is speaking and talking about the things that are being done differently and that sort of thing. It's maybe it starts to change, but people are going to use that against Oklahoma State every chance that they get. So it's it's going to be a tough thing to battle. And Mike Boynton in his case was just very eloquent in the things that he said today about that situation, about Black Lives Matter, about just race and ethnicity in general. I think that he's in a position to to handle it very well with the way that he was raised and the way that he was brought up and the background that he has. He speaks to that very well, and he's very talented in the way that he addresses those things. I was very impressed with a lot of the things that he had to say about that today. So,
same.
I think he's in good shape, but he's going to have to deal with a lot of that negative recruiting.
Scott Wright joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. I've said this a bunch of times. I want to know what your opinion is on it. I feel like now Coach Gundy is in a very tough position when it comes to coaching his players. I think that I've kind of described it as maybe walking on eggshells a little bit with even, being his type of coach, getting in the face of these guys at times and being afraid at the same time. What if somebody goes to Twitter and next thing you know, we have another controversy on your hands? Do you think he's in a tough a situation?
It's definitely going to make him think. I believe about what he's saying, how he's saying things. It's going to make him look at what he's been doing probably for years that he didn't realize might be upsetting to someone, and take a different kind of look at that, and maybe it's something he decides, no, this I feel is okay, this I feel is not. He's going to be very aware, much more aware of what he's saying and how he's saying things at this point now than he probably was.
Last question for you before we let you go here. Could this possibly be, let's say Oklahoma State football works everything out and things start going smoother, if we have a season for football and basketball, could this ultimately be the most competitive you've seen Oklahoma State football and basketball possibly in the same year?
In the same year, that's a good question. You're testing my my history knowledge a little bit there. It's certainly going to be up there in terms of the preseason hype. When we get to September and we know a little bit more about this basketball team, and we already know what the football team's got. We start seeing where they're coming out in some of the preseason rankings and those sorts of things. Then you get into, if they're rolling strong in October and basketball's firing up, the excitement about these two programs is just going to be immeasurable. It's going to be crazy. So it could be. There's probably a year. I'm stalling a little bit trying to think of a year when they were both really good, and I'm not coming up with a good example, but it's going to be right up there with one of the best years possibly in the school's history.
We obviously we're talking a lot of OSU specifics, but we've had some people on recently that we've ultimately asked the question about the upcoming season due to the pandemic and whatnot. And obviously, the news cycle for Oklahoma State over the past several months has been dominated by other things. But, we hear Kansas State shut down football practices for 2 weeks. We've heard Texas has 23 ultimately either in quarantine or testing positive. In your mind, with everything you're seeing across the landscape of college sports, do you see us realistically starting on time for this college football season?
Right now, I'm pretty optimistic, but the daily news is chipping away at that. There seems to be something new every day that comes out that chips away at my optimism that we're going to have a regular football season, either with or without fans. So I would say I'm still optimistic, but I'm less confident than I was that we're going to have a normal football season. So it's a scary time, and it's such a strange thing to live through. We hope that it's a short-term thing, as short-term as can be, so that we're quickly on the other side of it and looking back and telling the stories of, hey, you remember that one year when COVID-19 hit, but it feels like it's getting a little bit more difficult to get to the other side of that right now.
We haven't talked about it on our show yet, but obviously there's a report out that Big 12 ADs are talking about possibly pushing back the Big 12 championship game for football a week in case there is, you need a makeup game or something like that for December 5th. Do you think logistically that's going to be possible? Because you're essentially going to be having to ask Jerry Jones to completely reset up things a week later, and who's to say that the NFL isn't needing to make adjustments as well due to the virus?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the positive side of it is at least the Big 12 is being proactive in their thought and maybe trying to get ahead of the schedule. More so in terms of other people that might be needing to use the facility or being prepared and getting their name on the list. So, but yeah, it could turn into a little bit. At some point, we could start to feel like one of those high school football seasons. Whenever there's it's the quarterfinal round. And we have an ice storm go through, and then a week later you're scrambling for places to play, and kind of making up things as you go. So it could get crazy. So that's at least smart, I think, on their part to be thinking that far ahead and making some contingency plans.
You don't think they'll be like the OSA and just have a championship games during a tornado warning?
Oh my! You never know. Jerry probably convinced them that you can play in that place. It'll hold up through a tornado.
Yeah.
That's Scott Wright joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. He writes for Oklahoma State for the Oklahoman. Follow him on Twitter at ScottWrightOK. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, Scott Wright. A lot of good insight there. He's been a busy man covering a ton of Oklahoma State news, as we have as well. And I know primarily football, it's been like, oh my gosh, here we go. And he's had an eventful offseason to cover, to say the least.
All of us have.
We
covering
really have,
OSU, yeah. Well, and again, what's making it interesting and difficult for him, and obviously we had Jacob Unner on, I believe last week, is their company is also going through weekly or two. I think some of maybe it's Tulsa World, having to take 2 weeks of furloughs and stuff like that. I know Scott earlier this spring after the pandemic started had to do a furlough. I think you said that you've heard Jacob's on furlough right now. So imagine that. That's the thing that we've been lucky on this radio station over the news press so far is. I know over the news press we've lost some people, but it's not like if I was trying to cover something and then was having to take a furlough and then come back and then try to cover the chaos that has been the last month for us.
Right.
And again, it was funny because I think we mentioned it on Friday or Thursday. When's the last time we had something positive to report for OSU? It was basically John Smith being inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, because right after that is when Eddie died, and then all this other stuff that's gone on afterward. And this is the first bit of good news to really, last week's stuff was good for basketball as well, but it was overshadowed by the football program. This is the first day where the OSU news cycle, knock on wood, at almost 4 o'clock. Has been nothing but positive stuff.
When we come back, and we're happy to bring this positive news as well, we'll talk a little bit of Jason's takeaways he got from the Boynton Zoom conference, and then in hour number 2, director of the film Eddie, Christopher Hunt, is going to join us and talk about huge news regarding the film. All still to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I don't wanna wait for our life to be over. You haven't, but you take it how you left it. This is give and take. Take your time, take me under. I wanna know, but you show me what I'm missing. In the plane down in Southern California, running in the streets all day. I guess some of us just gotta learn the hard way. Don't give a damn.
Welcome back. Wrapping up hour number 1 of the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. Scott done a really good interview there with Scott Wright. Very knowledgeable as always. Said he had a ton to cover, as we have as well. He was a part of that Zoom conference, as were you, Jason. Yep. You actually got to put in a question or two, right? Okay.
Asked him to. Yeah,
good. So, and
I guess 2 with each of them having a follow up.
Right. So what was your main takeaway then from all that? Because he finally was getting to report on some good news. Last time we heard from him on a Zoom conference, it was right after the punishment.
Right. Yeah. And you know, as far as Cade, you know, there's nothing. I don't want to. This may sound bad, but it's like nothing necessarily kind of stands out because it was, you know, he was just like, you know, we've been pushing for him. He said he didn't even really know his answer until he saw the video come out, because he said he called. He actually, I thought it was really impressive. He called him yesterday to wish his dad a happy Father's Day. Cade Cunningham's dad a happy Father's Day, which kind of speaks to the character of Boynton. But a lot of it was, you know, you know, when people were asking, you know, things that only maybe a player could answer, that's what you'd get from him. It was a, you know, that's something that they would probably have an opinion on. You know, next time you can get access to them, you can ask them. He's like, I don't want to speak for them, type of thing, when it came to their decisions like that. And because he, you know, I think one of them was asking, you know, for Cade, if seeing all these guys was returning was, and he's like, you know, that's something we didn't really talk about. So, you know, as far as the how the players are reacting, he didn't really speak much on that, because it was I don't, you know, he's like, that's theirs, you know, that's for them to comment on, not necessarily for me, because, you know, he doesn't know necessarily what every single one of them feels exactly for that specific question. And I think that's a reasonable response for those. But the stuff that maybe, you know, sparked in my mind a little bit more, as you know, it sounded like it did for Scott, was some of the conversations on society right now. You know, the stuff on Black Lives Matter, and you know, he brought up a great point. He was talking about how, you know, he said the direct quote was, "Black Lives Matter is more than a hashtag to me." He's like, you know, this is my life. You know, this is, you know, basically saying that he, you know, he was kind of making the argument of against the people who say all lives matter or whatnot. He was like, he said, what they don't realize when they say that is they're actually agreeing with me. But what I'm saying, he's like, the people don't realize in the context of why I'm saying Black Lives Matter is because right now they don't feel it matters. So when you're saying all lives matter, you're essentially, what he's saying is you're essentially agreeing with us, but you think that we're already on the same level as you know, of white people. And that's what the whole Black Lives Matter movement is about. I thought that was interesting from him. And then also a great question. He even agreed with it. He was asked about basically how OSU fans should react to these players. You know, it was kind of along the lines of Chuba and whatnot. But, you know, if you know, and it was a case of, you know, these are more than athletes. You know, and I think he brought up a good point that I kind of tweeted out, was the fact that these guys are people. Yeah. You know, as much as people want to go on social media and say, I'll stick to sports, it's like, well, then you are being hypocritical, because if you just work at McDonald's, well, then just stick to flipping burgers. But you're on social media tweeting about politics. So and again, that's all my, you know. But that was kind of what he was leading towards, was it's more than just sports. And he said, the quote he said was, "It actually bothers me when people say that."
Let's go to the phone lines during the afternoon sports drive. Go ahead.
Hey guys, just real quick. I know it's top of the hour, but I'm a little confused. Now Boykin gave a press conference today, and I'm driving down the road, and I thought I heard you say that Boykin said that prospective future recruits, not this class that Cade and them are coming in, but did you say that recruits that he's going after for 21 are bringing up this situation?
Yes. He when he was asked about.
So that's a game changer.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify what I'd heard. You guys are doing a great job. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call.
Thank you.
I do want to clarify that. Yes, you know, because I mentioned it during Scott's interview. It was, he was asked about Mike Gundy's OAN T-shirt. He said that, you know, Boynton said that he didn't know about the network, and, you know, didn't really know about the shirt or whatever until it made big news. He said and he said his players haven't talked to him necessarily about that stuff, about the Gundy situation, Gundy Hubbard controversy, I guess you will, from last week. But he did say several instances that while recruiting, that it has been brought up by I don't know if he specified the family or the recruit itself, but he said several people have on the recruiting trail have brought it up to him already.
With the dead period, like all this is over the phone and all that, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So,
there's nothing in person.
He's sitting there, and then that's what's when I try to think of it. Wow, you're saying that the recruits actually brought it up and the families actually brought it up is what he ended up saying?
From what he said, and during our top of the hour break, I'll just go back and try to find it. He said it's being brought up by the recruits essentially, or whether it's the recruits specifically or their family, but it is being brought up on the recruiting trail for him. Yeah,
it's affecting other sports as well. Hour number 2, when we come back, Major League Baseball is actually supposed to be voting right now. The players are on whether to accept the proposal Major League Baseball sent of a 60-game season. So hopefully we'll have news and talk about that next year on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Now I hit the scene, they like lights, camera, action. Living in a dream, now my music, they be blasting. Step out, I'm a star, always in the latest fashion. Had to set the bar.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive. Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. 1020 a.m., 1580 a.m., 105.1, 93.1.
You want the direct quote to kind of follow up with the last question?
Yes.
I was able to find it, because Mike Boynton was asked about the Gundy OAN shirt. Obviously, again, he said he had never heard of the network, stuff like that. The quote was, I haven't had any of our players really approached me about it. It has come up in a few of our current conversations with some other guys. But, you deal with things as they come up, and you try to deal with them the best we can with the information you have and move on, and that's kind of where our focus is.
I told you off air. I think it puts Boynton in a tough spot. That's another hurdle he's going to have to jump here, because you want to be like, well, I support all of our coaches, everybody at OSU. Then someone would be like, well, you support what he did. And no, that's not what I mean. There's so many things where you have to tiptoe here. Yeah. And I think that he probably handles it the right way and says, look, we're going to handle our business here playing basketball.
Yeah. But So to clarify, he doesn't say specifically if it was high school recruits. Obviously, it was talked about later that he's still recruiting right now for this. Technically, you have a scholarship now open with both Yor and Hitty leaving. So it could be another it could be grad transfers who he's talking to that brought this up. But either way, people that he is talking to get on the roster at Oklahoma State either this year or next year, he says at least a few have brought it up to him.
Yeah. Interesting. The ramifications of all this, they stretch.
And like I said, that's going to be an interesting thing. Is obviously for basketball, and football, I think are probably the most notable ones. But it's going to be interesting if across the landscape of Oklahoma State, because that's the thing is that wasn't just a local story that made national news for the entire week last week, so everyone saw it.
I saw a tweet that said Oklahoma State had been in ESPN's top news stories like 5 times in the last month or whatever it was. Yeah. It's like, when is the last time something like that's happened? I think, though, doesn't it make sense, like when you think about what I asked Scott there, that this is the wrong time to have coronavirus stuff going on as well as everything else, because don't you maybe agree that Oklahoma State football and basketball has the potential to be uber competitive in the same year here?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and it's still shaping up, I think, to be a special season if there is a season. I mean, and that's, and I know we've had this conversation before with listeners years back. That's the one danger of the summer months is everything is going to become national news. Everything is, and right or wrong, I mean, it happens. And unfortunately for Oklahoma State, your summer months essentially have been spring and summer months. Yeah. So when Gundy made his comments back in April that first made headlines, if you were in the middle of, and at that point, if the pandemic wasn't going on, that would have probably happened in a, like a type of setting similar to just a regular practice. So maybe it might have picked up national news, but it might have been a day or two later. But because it was in the pandemic, you had an ESPN reporter actually listening in to it and everything, where they wouldn't have shown up for a local availability. That wouldn't have, I think, made as big waves back in April as well, and especially if you had other sports going on. So yeah, I mean, they've definitely been bit by the timing of all this, but at the same time, they've been bit by the fact that things were done and said. The
timing, did not play well. We would, at least if it were some other time, have bumpers in terms of scores to give and things like that, and things to talk about. But man, it's been, that's it. So, a reminder that Chris Hunt, director of the film Eddie, is coming on at 4:25. He broke the news on Twitter today that ESPN is picking up the film Eddie in a primetime slot. I'm hoping that he will give us the details on if that. I'm assuming probably going to be a 30 for 30, something like that. I think it's an hour and a half, so it might be a couple episodes.
He said the tweet says primetime.
Yeah, primetime.
Deal
That's
with
why
ESPN. So I'm assuming it's a 30 for 30,
like a Sunday night 30 for 30 thing.
Yeah, because 30 is a prime. It's always shown in primetime. Yeah. I don't think it would be one of their E60 things, because I think that's usually just a 60-minute show. It usually is smaller snippets of stories that they condense into that 1 hour. So, yeah, my assumption is it's ultimately going to be a 30 for 30 project.
I think so. I think you said it. I know I said it, too. As soon as we got the news about the film and everything, and it was, I think, what was it, back in March even, or April, said, you know what, with everything going on right now, we got no sports.
Yep.
With Eddie getting into the Hall of Fame, or at least we planned on it this year, and then it happened, and it's like, it makes too much sense. ESPN would have to grab onto this, put it out there for people to watch in a sportsless world right now with everything on top of it. It was the perfect storm with the class that was inducted with Eddie too. It was like, this makes too much sense, and what do you know?
Oh, and then the week that he passed away, I think it was on ESPNU or ESPN News. They did the following Saturday. They did a basically a marathon of Eddie Sutton games, and I remember quote tweeting the release and saying, if only there were a documentary that ESPN could run on this man. Oh wait, there is. And what do you know? A month later, we're getting news that maybe ESPN caught on to my tweet or something. I'm assuming that conversation, because again, I know we've had Chris on before, and he's made comments that they were getting close, and that was about a month or so ago that they were trying to close in on a deal.
Yeah.
I think at the time we were talking about possibly Netflix if ESPN wasn't willing to, because Netflix has become a big streaming source. But at the same time, obviously ESPN, if you're a sports documentary, best place is going to be ESPN, because obviously you're going to get more attention there. Plus, with the now ESPN Plus access, that's the thing. I actually need to go back and catch up on all the documentaries. I'm still upset with myself. I haven't had time to watch the McGuire one yet.
Yeah,
but,
you got to get that. We're going to talk about that.
But like during the Michael Jordan ones, I was able to get on the ESPN Plus and watch it there because my DVR wasn't recording them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I was able to watch them there, and that's the great thing about ESPN is you're going to get both linear and streaming accessibility.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be available for everybody, even if you don't have. Like you said, you can stream it if you don't have availability to watch it on television. So it's going to be great. I remember when Myron Metcalf tweeted too, or actually wrote a story about on ESPN about the film, and it kind of gained a little bit more traction, a little bit more recognition as well there. And so now it's great to see it on a platform as big as ESPN. So Chris Hunt will come on 4:25 to talk about it.
And I don't know, do we want to do it before he's on? The audio that I got from Boynton, because I actually, that was one of the last questions today. I asked Boynton if he had heard the news. You know what
we should do? Let's ask him when he's on if he's heard it by chance.
Okay.
If he heard the press conference and say this is what he had to say. So get his reaction on that live. Major League Baseball is supposed to be voting right now on the players on whether to accept this latest proposal or not from Major League Baseball.
I keep trying to refresh Jeff Passan on Twitter.
This weekend, I don't know about you, I'm sure you got them too. It was an update on players are set to vote. Players are delaying the vote due to coronavirus stuff. Players planning on voting tomorrow. Players are delaying the vote. And I was just mad. I was like, I am sick of this. And now they're, we saw the coronavirus stuff where they shut down all facilities for a deep cleaning. Phillies shut down their facility. The Blue Jays shut down their facility. with some positive tests, and they're voting on the proposal for 60 games. Then you get Rob Manfred coming back and saying, well, I want to make a couple of tweaks here. And I think that players were like, why we were about to vote, so now they had to wait on that. Manfred and Tony Clark could not come on to a decision about what the framework for an agreement actually looked like, so there was so much confusion there as well. When it came to Manfred, he said that he would be willing to give up the expanded playoffs and the universal designated hitter in 2021 in the event that a full season is not played. So that was the latest tweak to it. 60 games, that was the issue, though, was players weren't happy with it. Yeah. And owners wouldn't budge. So what we're expecting, I think, tentatively here, unless something major just happens and the players go, fine, whatever, is the players to deny this, to reject this, and probably have Rob Manfred implement a 60-game season. From there, though, people are like, oh, baseball, well, maybe not, because we also would expect the players to file a grievance. And then we're just back and forth chatting. I'm telling you what, sitting here on June 22nd, we're running out of time. I can't believe we said that with the NBA at one point. We're starting to get to the point into the summer now where, especially with baseball, it's like we have to have a yes or no. I think that there are so many people that are ready for just a simple yes or no, and honestly, a lot of people are probably just fine with it either way at this point. There may be some diehards that are like, please, we're going to have baseball. So many of them, I don't think, have ever been as fed up with the sport as we are now. It's just like
both of them get no money this year.
It's like we just don't even care.
If they don't care about the fans, we don't care about them making money.
They don't care about the fans. I think that's a good way. If everyone out there that's a Major League Baseball fan has not noticed that this year, then you haven't been paying very much attention, because it has been an ongoing effort to show that on a grand stage. So that's where we are with Major League Baseball. Hopefully we can get some news on an official yes or no vote from the players before we hop off air at 5 o'clock. So we plan on that. Real quickly here, we'll get to Chris Hunt in about 10 minutes. Some tough stuff in NASCAR. Bubba Wallace is the lone African-American NASCAR driver. We get news over the weekend that a noose was allegedly found in his garage.
Yep.
That was disturbing news when I first heard that. The response, though, today was pretty cool to see.
Very impactful.
It was very impactful. The video, if those that are listening haven't seen it, I promise you it's definitely worth watching. We get a bunch of other racers and staff and everybody pushing Bubba Wallace's car up to the starting line. I mean, that's impressive.
Well, it was, you had his fellow drivers basically completely surrounding his car, pushing it towards the front of pit lane, and then every single crew for each of the racers were lined up walking along behind them, and so the entire pit row is just flooded with people following him. And Fox shows a little snippet of him kind of breaking down while trying to get out of his car, and then actually while he's outside of the car but feet still in, has to lean against the car and break down some more. And then the great Richard Petty, of all people, Petty comes up there, who again is the car owner, and kind of gives him a hug while he's in, a sign of support while he's kind of just having a moment there. And then there's some photos out now. He got on top of his race car again before the race, so probably put a little dent on, might have affected the flow of the race car, and took basically a selfie. And it's got the entire pit row behind him just flooded with the support. And it's an impactful message, because basically you're showing, and I definitely suggest listening to the Fox broadcast of it, because the broadcaster, you can even tell at one point he's choking up with what he's saying, and brings up the fact that, in NASCAR and really in sports in general, he's like, when they all get out there to race, they're not black, white, yellow, they're out there. They're race car drivers, and they're our heroes. And I think that was just perfectly said, because that is the case. I mean, we so many people want to bring up the race of a person, the color of their skin. When it comes down to it, we're all, as he put it, we're all heroes, or we're all human beings. We're all put on this earth to try to survive. And if you don't think that some of us have had it easier than the others, then you're part of the problem.
Well, and again, sports are where that is defined of everyone is going towards that common goal regardless of race, and then that's kind of what I've told you. I've never once sat down and said, oh my gosh, I can't watch this game because that guy's a certain skin color. It's kind of unbelievable to think that.
But the problem is you have some people who sit down, cheer on these athletes, and then turn around and belittle them because of the color of their skin, even after they literally just cheered for them.
Right. Richard Petty, 82 years old. And this was the first race he's attended since, obviously, the coronavirus and all that, which rightfully staying away. Yeah. But he said the most important thing was for him to go hug his driver. So it was very impactful. The video is really cool to see. I encourage you to go check that out if you hadn't. We're going to take our break. When we come back, director of the film, Eddie Chris Hunt, is going to come on and discuss the big news dropping today. That was good news item number 2 today for Oklahoma State. He'll discuss the film Eddie next with us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what
Welcome back into the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. Christopher Hunt will be joining us momentarily. I believe Tom Dorado's going to find his way back in here as well, too. I saw him just a minute ago. He was looking in here, wasn't he?
He made it look like he was writing or something like that. I don't know.
What could he be writing?
Maybe he's in here to start his own memoirs.
Oh, well, it's about time.
The Tom Dorado Files.
Yeah. We tell Chris to turn that in the next documentary.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Again,
10-parter.
There are some stories, especially some of his hockey, in his minor league hockey days, when he was broadcasting some of the stories he's told me. I don't think they could make it to the documentary, but it would be amazing to watch. Yeah, Tom knows exactly what I'm talking about.
What do you mean? We could do, and just like they did on ESPN, they had for Michael Jordan one channel was for the not kid friendly.
Yeah, but man, I think even some of the stories that Tom has mentioned to me, it's even just ESPN, you'd have to get HBO Sports to pick those up.
Okay, interesting.
You might get sued.
I was saying that's what you were out there. You were working on your memoirs.
No, actually, I was working on the music as I was working on. Just got up from Simon and Garfunkel for crying
Getting
out loud.
Getting that jukebox ready to go. Well, let's head to the phone lines because Christopher Hunt is joining us now. Chris, it has been, I'm sure, one heck of a day for you and your team.
Been awesome, and I've also got David with me.
Yes.
David Tester with me. He's the producer of the movie and helped make this deal come together. So I wanted to bring him along, of course, because just so integral in getting this done and finally able to kind of share the news we've been wanting to share for quite some time, as you guys well know.
Chris and Dave with us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you. I know you guys have probably been flooded with messages and everything today going on, and the announcement that you guys talking about the Eddie film being launched on ESPN on a primetime slot. Now, before we get to the details on that, as much as you can share with us, I told Jason and Tom, I said I was going to toot my own horn a little bit, and I think Jason called it too. But I said this is going to be on ESPN. Yep. It made too much sense. And with everything going on at the time, with Eddie getting inducted into the Hall of Fame and all that, it had to be on ESPN. What does it mean for you guys to get it on a platform as big as that?
It's absolutely a dream come true. I mean, whenever we started doing this project, Dave and I would have discussions, and we kind of always in the back of our heads felt like ESPN would be the perfect home for it. But, I mean, I'll tell you, early on, it didn't look great for that. I mean, we kind of threw the idea whenever we first dreamed up the project. Two executives over there, or at least their film department, and we got a nicely worded email back, kind of form letter email declining their interest in the project. And I don't know, I'm so thankful that didn't deter us, and we kept making the movie because we knew we had a great story. We knew we had something that would be worth telling, and so we just kept pushing. And then just kind of funny how things just worked their way back around, and sure enough, timing was right, I guess. And I think you're on point there with Eddie in the Hall of Fame. I think that certainly helped the movie and its marketability, and just everything that's kind of gone on, over the last couple of months with COVID and all that. I think they were more open to having films made by outside entities, if you will. And I'm just really happy and look forward to this first step in the process, getting the movie out into the world.
Hey, Chris, how much of the, I guess, the basics can you give us in terms of now we're letting people know it's on ESPN. Now, when can they see it? What time? I mean, that's the next question people ask. And what can you tell us up till now?
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to make sure Dave was on with you. He can tell you. I'll just say real quick that our current thing that we've signed with them is for the next 3 months. So I know it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
We haven't agreed on the date yet, and it'll be up to them primarily. But we have agreed that it is a primetime slot, so that's your 7 to 9 o'clock hour, and where it's going to get the most visibility. So what ESPN did, I'm sure you guys are well aware, after that Last Dance series, which just blew up, they came out with a few smaller films. I think that they had commissioned, and they had Lance Armstrong, and they've got the McGuire Sosa one, Bruce Lee, and so what they were really wanting to do, they had some people internally fighting for our projects because ESPN isn't really in the content acquisition game right now. They have invested so much money into their own internal productions, and so for them to go out and acquire content just isn't really in their strategy. And so I share the same sentiment as you guys, saying, yeah, it needs to be on ESPN, but this is also a business, and we have to find a good home for it that's going to work for everyone. And so what we've agreed with them is that they will have the rights for a few months. They'll get to show it a couple times, and then we're also working on another deal, which is not complete yet. So I'm not going to necessarily go into the details, but it will be something where Eddie will be able to live on, the film will be able to live on a very major, accessible platform for audiences all over. And so we've got a couple of fun screenings that's going to happen with ESPN, and then it's going to have a long-term future after that.
Explain the journey you guys have been on. We've tried to do this here, and I've tried to do it just by knowing you guys and how much work went into it. But this is a 4-year effort, if not more, depending on when you actually started with the idea. But what was the emotion that you felt when you finally came to an agreement with ESPN to get it on?
Well, the journey has been obviously a really long one, from just conceptualizing the movie to raising some funds to be able to make the movie, to the production of it, getting everybody on board who's actually in the movie. It's just been, I think, at every step, just major lessons learned. This has been the greatest test of patience of my entire life, and it's not even close. And this kind of last bit of the process, the distribution process, is just real nervy, because you know what you've made and you're confident in it, and you know it's good and it's worthy, right? And we're not saying that just because it's our film. I just you just kind of know. You're like, I got something here, and for it to be able to be on this extraordinary platform where potentially millions of people can see it is so rewarding, and I'm just so happy for everyone that was involved in the making of the movie, but I'm also really happy for, the Sutton family, that this legacy is going to Eddie's legacy is going to be able to live on. I'm really, really happy for Oklahoma State fans around the country who have supported us and just kind of inspired us to make this movie. I'm really happy for them to be able to see it on a platform that they deserve. And so it's just, it is definitely, Tom, it's an emotional time, just the satisfaction of kind of like, we did it, it's just nice. And it really does make it all worth it.
Chris and Dave joining us here from the film Eddie, director and producer. Did you get the chance to hear Coach Mike Boyden's comments on the film today on his Zoom conference?
I haven't. No.
Okay. Well, we're going to play him for you, and then we're going to get your reaction.
Yeah, this is. I actually asked him myself about that, so because I knew we were going to have him on, so I wanted to play this for you real quick. Bear with me; it's coming over on the phone, so let me know if you can adjust it. But here you go.
It's been a great summer for OSU so far. I hope that's the headline everywhere tomorrow. That's awesome. It's this is something that a lot of people have put a lot of work in putting together, and obviously the Hall of Fame kind of top over here. This spring was a really great moment for him and his family, and I'm excited to see it. I know a lot of people who've been working on it. I know the hours and hours of time and interviews that they put in to get this thing together, and I'm excited to watch it. And again, I'm just thankful to be a part of his program, and I hope that today is a day that he's really proud of Oklahoma State basketball.
There you go. So he actually recognized, your guys' dedication, how long it really took just to get to this point.
That's pretty cool. Thanks for playing that for us.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I'm a big Mike Boynton fan. I think he's got just an unbelievable future in Stillwater. I think that what's happening with the program right now is just, I think, honestly, man, if they can just set their goal as high as possible for this year, postseason or no, and go out and win a bunch of basketball games, I think everything is going to be all right. He is a classy guy that knows a lot about basketball, does just an excellent job of relating with the fan base, and obviously can bring in some players that can get the job done, and that's what you need. I think Eddie, to relate it back to Eddie has a pretty famous quote about the Kentucky Derby. It's you don't win the Kentucky Derby with a bunch of jackasses. And I think Coach Boynton is in a position where he's just recruiting his tail off, bringing in players that, I think Oklahoma State fans are going to enjoy watching. And I really do. I'm not just saying this. I really think he's got a super bright future.
I don't know how many times ESPN people watched it, fellas, but I'm interested in what the kind of common denominator reaction was when they saw the film. Maybe they had to watch it a couple of times, but could you put that in perspective for us, people who really maybe didn't know Eddie Sutton, what they came out of thinking when they watched it?
Honestly, Tom, I don't know exactly what the reaction was. I can only go by a couple of gentlemen who work over at ESPN, and Dave, help me out if I forget something. But I know Myron Metcalf, one of the main basketball writers over at ESPN. He was a huge advocate for the film, and I mean, honestly, he basically said that it was one of the best sports documentaries he'd ever seen. And so that was really amazing. There's another gentleman over there named Tony Moss who writes for ESPN.com, and he was a big advocate for the film and getting it in front of people. And I know that they emailed me and told me how much they loved the movie. And so I know that helped getting it to the right people up the ladder over there. And I think it was pretty well received.
And
yeah,
again,
I think
go ahead, Dave.
The main reaction we've gotten has been, "Wow, this is better than what I thought it was going to be." And how did you get so many big name people to sit down with you? Like we've had people from ESPN be like, you got Clinton and Jerry Jones and Dick Vitale. You got all these people. Some of those people are hard to get for their 30 for 30s that they're trying to make. And so they were just blown away by the access. And then I think they were also, you get an unsolicited film coming your way. You're like, oh, great, let's check this out, right? And so I think they were really pleasantly surprised with the quality of it, but also just how dynamic the story was. And it's not just a sports doc. So if someone out there doesn't necessarily care about college basketball, they're going to love this film because it's about a human struggle, and it's about emotions that we can all relate to. And some of us have been through some of them before ourselves. And so it's one of those films that really bridges the gap on the audiences.
When do you think, and I know you get it out as soon as you can, but that'll be the next question. You kind of outlined, give us an outline on it, but when will you know the actual time slots that they're going to give this movie? Because that's what our fans are going to want to know. When can I tune in, what day, what time?
We'll probably know here in the next couple of weeks. And I mean, if I had to take a stab at it, I think it's going to air in July, but I don't know. I don't have details for you yet on that. But it's one of those things where ESPN, they want to make sure it has a really good spot, and they want to make sure that it's in a good night that fits with all their programming. And so I guarantee you the moment we know, we are going to be blasting out there. You're going to be so sick of hearing about the time and the day. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I think they also want time to promote it as well. Yeah, so I would imagine, I totally agree with Dave. I imagine the first time it'll be on will be in July, and then they'll run it a few more times after that, and it'll be on both ESPN and ESPN2.
Okay, perfect. Chris and Dave joining us here from the film Eddie on the Afternoon Sports Drive. What is this going to mean for the Sutton family as a whole? I mean, them getting a chance to see this out there for everybody to kind of, view an inside look into Eddie's life, and like a lot of people that may not know that much about him are getting this opportunity here.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I will say that I do know that Sean, in particular, just because I've talked with him, I know he's very excited about the platform, and I think it was a goal of theirs, I think, for it to land here. Like I kind of said earlier, I just feel like ESPN is the perfect fit for the movie, at least to get this whole ride started. And so I think that they're very happy. I think being able to introduce Coach to this audience, so many people now, especially younger people, might not have heard of Coach Sutton. And so I think being able to get his legacy out in the world is a huge deal for them. And so I know that they're really excited about this.
I know you guys are elated, but I know you guys, I know Chris for sure that, you're probably working on something else as we speak. So you don't want to tip your hand here, but what a great thing this is for our fans, because you can't imagine how many times, maybe you can, but I don't think you can even get close to the questions and how many times have we been asked, when can we see it? We've heard about it. When can we see it? And, of course, we had to kind of inch our way toward this day. But I think this will be a huge, huge relief for our Oklahoma State fans for sure.
Tom, I mean, it's just a huge relief for us, too. You know, you go through the process, and you kind of asked me about it earlier, just the emotional journey of it all. I mean, there are days and nights where you're lying in bed, and can't go to sleep because you're just thinking to yourself, is this going to happen? And you got to fight through that to get it there. But there's been plenty of moments where you have legit doubt, and and this film there's been an added pressure to it because we had to tell people we were making the movie kind of whenever we started. Most of the times you just wake up one day and you see a trailer for a new movie and you're like, oh, that looks cool. I'll go check that out. Well, for our local fan base here, they've known about this thing for a while, and so we get those questions. I mean, they didn't just, most people, at least Oklahoma State people and probably Arkansas people, they knew that they didn't see a tweet today and this was the first time they'd ever heard of the movie. Some might, but, a lot of people knew about it. So that's what you're talking about, like, with all these people asking and everything. So we definitely felt that pressure and wanted to deliver, hugely. And so it is a huge relief to be able to share this. I look forward to hopefully even one day being able to do stuff with people and having that experience, because I feel like that's how films are supposed to be shared. But it's just so great to be able to have this on ESPN, and we can brag about Eddie a little bit, and I just think that's great.
That's Chris and Dave joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, director and producer of the film Eddie. You can follow him on Twitter at Eddie Sutton Film to keep up with all the updates. Guys, thanks so much for coming on, giving us some of your time. We'll be sure to put it out there as soon as we know to, and get word from you guys, the time and all of that. But your work has not gone unnoticed, and then thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hey, congratulations, fellas. Congratulations. I know what kind of a journey this has been, being somewhat inside of it, and I can't wait to see it get out there. Not for me, because I've seen it 3 times, but I want the rest of the world to see it as well.
Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate everything you've done for us in the project.
It was my pleasure, and I can't wait for share it with the rest of the world. Anyway, that's the whole idea.
Absolutely. All right, talk soon, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Chris and Dave there from the film Eddie. I think that was pretty cool. We played the answer that Mike Boynton gave, and that was. Hey, they hadn't heard that yet. They were happy to hear that he recognized the work. I think that's one of the best things, because filmmaking is brutal.
Yeah.
Filmmaking business is brutal. To break in and to get something on as big as ESPN, that's a huge win. And then from what he's talking about there, too, that he even said that he doesn't want to tip anything off, but there could be a project coming up here, the same thing, an opportunity to grab that onto a bigger streaming service, maybe like a Netflix or a Hulu or something like that. Everybody's going to get a chance to watch this thing.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. Especially, I'm going to have some tomatoes ready. That way when Tom comes on TV, I can throw tomatoes at my screen. That's going to be probably the best part.
6 or 7 of them.
Oh, wow, you're on that much? Man, they were...
Not for long.
Man.
Oh, yeah. They sprinkled plenty of Tom in.
No wonder it took ESPN that long to be willing to sign. They're like, that Tom Dorado guy, come on.
Oh, man. That's going to be great to see. I cannot wait. Yeah, Tom, he probably won't be able to come on our show anymore, because he'll be so much more famous just worldwide now. People trying to grab his autograph and everything. So he'll
maybe.
Yeah, too much going on to be with us. I cannot wait for that film, as I know a lot of people are in the same boat there. And again, when we get more information, hopefully in the next few weeks, about times and all that, we will get that out there on the show. When we come back to wrap things up, well, Paul Finebaum said something interesting on Friday on the Dan Patrick Show regarding players coming back to college football and the coronavirus. We will discuss that next.
She like my futuristic sounds in the new spaceship. Futuristic if I fill up cake. She never need a man, she what a man need.
Welcome back, wrapping up the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you as we wrap it up here on a Monday. Jason's over there like laughing at his phone, so I know he saw something.
Apparently MLB Network is they're trying to fill airwaves right now as well, like all sports things are. And apparently they had a sit down with King Griffey Jr. just talking about his playing days and all this other stuff. And ESPN quoted out a tweet from his interview with MLB Network. If the Yankees were the last team, if they were the only team that gave me a contract, I'd retire. That's how much he hated the Yankees. That's impressive. That is some hatred.
I became even more of a fan.
Right? Oh yeah, I've always loved Junior, but to hear him come out there and straight up say, if the Yankees were the last man on earth, I'd kill myself. I'd retire
to New York.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I love it.
You need to
now. Yeah, and you need to. They mentioned him a number of times in Long Gone Summer. And I'm telling you, it's like his part in there too is fantastic.
His swing,
that's what the people were talking about.
Maybe the best I've ever seen. It's so smooth,
so visually appealing. Yeah. I mean, really, it was one of the, if not the smoothest.
Yeah,
swings.
he's one of those guys where you're like, man, if he wouldn't have, if his body wouldn't have started shutting down on him late in his career, the numbers that he could have put up, the generation that he could have impacted now, like he's already had an impact, but he never. That was. What sucked for him is he never got that opportunity to be on a great team either.
Right, exactly.
But it's hilarious to hear that even if he was and again, kind of connected back to Cade Cunningham, even if Cade, was pretty much told you go play for Kansas, for Duke, North Carolina. I don't want to go play for them.
Wow, yeah.
King Griffey Jr. He could have gone to the Yankees and won, bought a couple of World Series championships, and he's like, no, I retired before that.
I love it. That's a great comment. Switching gears here real quick to end the show. Friday, Paul Finebaum, known as the voice of the SEC to most people, on ESPN, has done that show for years and years and years. Was on the Dan Patrick Show on Fox Sports Radio, and he said this, which made a lot of people say, excuse me, Paul?
Can we trust college coaches to even be honest about these tests once we get to the season? I mean, you talk about getting ready for the Ohio State-Michigan game, the Alabama-Auburn game, the Georgia-Florida game. Are coaches going to say, I'm sorry, my star player tested positive, I'm going to quarantine him in the offensive line? College football is ripe with lying and cheating and fraudulence and deception, and I don't think this would be any different.
He is alleging that some coaches would actually hide positive coronavirus tests if it meant keeping their players in the games.
I mean, they've done it with concussions.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why when I heard it, so what I heard initially was people played this on other shows and they were like, is he serious? Does he really think that? I mean, like, let's be serious here. I'm not trying to say that coaches are just these diabolical. Well, I mean, maybe they are, but when it comes to competition like this, just like he's talking about, if it's a huge game coming up, and your quarterback or someone that you cannot replace, I mean, let's be honest, can't replace this guy, just test positive. Are you going to try to do your best? I think the only thing that would stop that would be and I know we've kind of talked about concussions here the same way, could ultimately be liable here at a huge way. I mean, a virus that we know can spread pretty easily and all of that, and maybe it doesn't affect the player, but it might affect somebody else. I think that if they got caught doing that, if any coach got, that would be career ender, right?
But let's keep in mind, we just saw what we just saw with what's going on with basketball, college basketball. People know that what they did, Lamont Evans knew what he did would be a career ender for him, and he still did it anyway. And we also have to keep in mind with these college, especially college basketball or college head coaches in general, there are two ways you get paid money: by playing the games and by winning games. Mm-hmm. And if there's no games, or if there's a threat of losing a game because half of your team's out with coronavirus, I mean, let's just put it this way. Again, I know Boone Pickens said he wanted, as long as everything was on the up and up at OSU, then he was good, supporting and whatnot. But not all programs are 100% perfect, and not all head coaches have their best players' best interest in mind.
I don't believe it's as crazy of a thought as some people have said. Like,
no,
we've
I'm not saying every single coach is going to do it, and I don't think Finebaum was as well.
No,
but you can't tell me that there's going to be every single coach is going to be 100%. We'll because here's the thing. We don't. Matter of fact, here at Oklahoma State, we don't know how many players have actually tested positive.
Right.
We don't know how many have even been tested outside of that first wave. We were told that first wave, 3 players, based off of X amount of tests. We haven't gotten an update since. KU just released their numbers over the weekend. Kansas State, we know numbers. Texas, we know numbers. OU isn't on campus yet, but OSU, all we know is 3 originally, but we don't know anything since.
Right. I think you kind of have to put it in another perspective too, is that let's think that this could happen possibly in college football. I've heard the scenario brought up too of, for instance, NFL players. Would it kind of be the same way? If a Patrick Mahomes tests positive for the coronavirus before a huge game, does he want to even, I'm not saying putting words in his mouth, but would he be like, we got to make sure it's just not, and it's kind of the same way with college football. I wonder, and the thing I think of, because when I think of these things, I like to dig really deep into what could possibly happen in every scenario. The people that test these guys and they go back to the lab for the results, let's say that they send the results back and they already know they're positive. And the next thing you know, they're looking at the news the next day, and the guy that tested positive is playing in the game. Well, do they come out and say, you'll never believe this?
And again, here's the other risk with all of this as well. When are you testing? Are you testing every single day?
Yeah.
Are you putting in your game plan, then testing on Friday? And again, this has been a conversation with the NFL already. You tested in on Friday, and then one or two players come that were going to be in your game plan test positive. Now you've just gone through an entire week of game planning.
And we're talking,
and you can't utilize those players now.
14 days quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay. That could end the season.
Again, that's why we're hearing reports that the Big 12's already ADs. They're discussing right now pushing back the conference championship a week. That way, if a game gets canceled, an important one that maybe decides who plays in that game, you can try to slot it in now on December 5th, which is when it's originally supposed to be played. But that's the thing is, like, if they're already having those contingency plans, I get it, but what are you going to do if it's more than just one game?
Right, exactly.
What if you need 3 weeks, 4 weeks, an entire month of the season gets wiped out by one or two programs being just decimated by COVID?
And that's what I've said is, people might not want to hear it, but let's be honest. If your star quarterback tested positive today, coaches are thrilled at this point that it happened now. Let's be honest. And instead of week 5 or 6 in the season where all of a sudden the game plan changes, it's okay, let's get you ready to go. That's why the testing is so important right now and everything, too. I've seen, people are starting to freak out a little bit because of all the numbers that are being sent back in. But let's think of it this way. For most of these guys, unless they have an underlying condition, probably, they're going to be fine. A lot of them are majority are asymptomatic cases. So it's actually a good thing that we're getting these positive tests right now compared to not just from a sports thing, but a sports view, but also a team view and all that, too, and a personal view for those players. It's like, if they have it, let's find out now and get them the help they need instead of possibly delaying it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's significant. But we also have to keep in mind, NCAA put a stipulation in their coming back to work out. They mandate at least 4 weeks before you're allowed to play your season.
Mm-hmm.
And we are just over a month away from that being the reality.
Yeah.
Come August 1, we're essentially 4 weeks from the season starting. We are about a month away from really knowing if a organization, a franchise, these universities will be able to play football. Because if come August 1, Oklahoma State is is like with Kansas State right now. If any of these universities are in the middle of a 2-week shutdown because everyone's under quarantine because of this, then you know based on NCAA rules, you're not allowed to start your season.
Yeah.
So we're gonna know more in a month for sure.
Oh yeah.
Based on if people are actually able to practice and not have to quarantine.
Big time. It's going to do it for us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Big thank you to Scott Wright joining the show in hour number 1. Chris Hunt and his producer Dave for the film Eddie joining us. Tom Dorado as well there here in hour number 2. We'll get all those interviews up so you can hear them if you missed those. A lot of good stuff today. That's Jason Lomquist over there. I'm Patrick Wheeler. We will come back with you same time, same place here tomorrow.